Close your eyes for a moment and picture this. You're crouched in a waterlogged foxhole somewhere in the Ardennes forest, December 1944. The official supply line hasn't reached you in 3 days. Your rifle is caked with mud, your rations are gone, and the only thing between you and hypothermia is whatever you can improvise from what's in your pockets and scattered around this godforsaken patch of frozen earth. This isn't a training exercise. There's no manual for this moment. There's only you, your wits, and the desperate need to survive until dawn. Welcome back to The Lost Tactician, where today we're pulling back the curtain on one of the most overlooked aspects of World War II. The improvised survival gear that never made it into the official field manuals, yet saved countless lives across every theater of the war. Imagine being deep behind enemy lines, surrounded, injured, and with no resupply in sight. What would you do to survive? Today we're uncovering the shockingly ingenious yet completely improvised survival tactics that World War II soldiers used to turn everyday objects into life-saving tools. The romanticized version of World War II often focuses on grand strategies, heroic charges, and technological marvels. But between those dramatic moments existed vast stretches of time where soldiers faced a more insidious enemy, deprivation itself. When official gear failed, broke, or simply never arrived, combatants had to become inventors, engineers, and survivors all at once. This desperate ingenuity created an entire shadow catalogue of field expedients, improvised solutions that were never officially sanctioned but became essential knowledge passed from veteran to rookie in whispered conversations and battlefield demonstrations. What makes these improvised solutions so remarkable isn't just their cleverness, but their universality. Whether you were an American GI island hopping across the Pacific, a Soviet soldier fighting in the rubble of Stalingrad, or a British commando operating behind enemy lines in North Africa, you faced the same fundamental challenge. Official equipment was designed for ideal conditions that rarely existed in combat. The real war happened in the gaps between what the manual said you should have and what you actually possessed at that critical moment. In those gaps, innovation flourished. Consider the humble steel helmet, perhaps the most iconic piece of military equipment from the era. The M1 helmet that American soldiers wore was engineered to stop shrapnel and provide head protection. But its real genius lay in what soldiers discovered it could do beyond its intended purpose. That bowl of hardened steel became a portable kitchen, used to boil water over improvised fires, cook foraged food, or heat rations. It served as a wash basin when hygiene mattered most, keeping infection at bay in tropical jungles or desert heat. Some soldiers even fashioned crude periscopes by mounting their helmets on sticks, allowing them to peer over trench lines without exposing their heads to sniper fire. One piece of equipment, a dozen life-saving applications. Then there were the items that seemed almost comically mundane, yet proved invaluable. Standard-issue condoms, distributed primarily for health purposes, became one of the most versatile waterproofing tools in a soldier's arsenal. Rifle barrels wrapped with a condom stayed clear of sand during desert storms and water during beach landings. Demolition charges wrapped in these latex sheaths remained dry and functional even when crossing rivers. The same prophylactic that prevented disease also prevented the catastrophic failure of weapons and explosives at crucial moments. Soldiers learned quickly that survival often depended on seeing potential in everything. The concept of the possibles tin exemplifies this mindset perfectly. These small containers, often repurposed tobacco tins or ration cans, became personalized survival kits filled with needles, safety pins, fish hooks, cordage, and, well, other small items that enabled remarkable improvisation. With these simple tools, a soldier could repair torn uniforms, create fishing lines from paracord, fashion snares for small game, or even construct makeshift compasses. The possibles tin represented more than just gear. It embodied a philosophy that preparedness meant carrying not specialized equipment for every situation, but basic tools that could be adapted to countless situations. Even cooking became an exercise in battlefield innovation. The standard metal canteen cup, when paired with an improvised stove fashioned from an empty sea ration can filled with sand soaked in gasoline, could heat water or food with surprising efficiency. This wasn't in any manual, but soldiers discovered that the sand absorbed and regulated the fuel's burn rate, creating a controlled heat source that didn't require scarce solid fuel tablets or give away positions with large fires. Food procurement in combat zones required soldiers to become instant survivalists. Foraging wasn't taught in basic training, but, veterans quickly learned to identify edible plants in whatever environment they found themselves. In the Pacific, coconuts and breadfruit supplemented meager rations. In Europe, soldiers raided abandoned gardens and learned which wild greens were safe. More importantly, they learned to prepare these foods with minimal equipment, roasting roots in the embers of small fires, boiling leafy vegetables in their helmets, or creating stews from whatever combination of foraged ingredients and remaining rations they possessed. Medical improvisation often meant the difference between life and death when proper supplies ran out. Soldiers fashioned tourniquets from belts, bootlaces, and rifle slings. Moss and clean cloth became wound packing when gauze was unavailable. Maggot therapy, though revolting, was sometimes employed to debride wounds and prevent gangrene, a practice that actually had medical validity. Combat medics became masters of improvisation, using everything from melted candle wax to seal wounds, to fashioning splints from rifle stocks and tent poles. The ingenuity displayed in these desperate medical situations would later influence modern wilderness medicine and trauma care. Concealment and camouflage also benefited from field ingenuity. Soldiers learned to attach local vegetation to their helmets and uniforms, creating effective camouflage patterns that matched their immediate environment far better than any factory-produced pattern could. They fashioned ghillie suits from burlap sacks and natural materials, constructed hide sites from battlefield debris, and learned to use mud, charcoal, and plant juices as face paint. The environment itself became both ally and disguise for those clever enough to blend with it. These improvised solutions served a purpose beyond their practical applications. They provided psychological anchors in chaos. The act of creating something useful from nothing gave soldiers a sense of control in situations where they controlled almost nothing. When you could transform a discarded tin can into a working stove or fashion a shelter from a poncho and some branches, you weren't just solving immediate problems. You were proving to yourself that you possessed the capability to survive, that your resourcefulness could overcome shortages and setbacks. This psychological dimension cannot be overstated. Morale in combat depends heavily on soldiers believing they can handle whatever challenges arise. The veteran who could teach a replacement how to waterproof matches using wax from a rationed cheese wheel or create a fishing line from bootlaces wasn't just sharing practical knowledge. They were transmitting confidence, demonstrating that survival was possible even in the bleakest circumstances. These small victories over deprivation accumulated into something larger: resilience. The greatest generation's grit wasn't just about courage under fire, it was about adaptability and problem-solving under extreme pressure. They understood intuitively what modern survival training now explicitly teaches, that mindset and knowledge matter more than equipment. A soldier with minimal gear but maximum ingenuity could often outlast a well-equipped soldier who lacked the creativity to adapt when things didn't go according to plan. Today, these forgotten field expedients offer, well, some pretty profound lessons for anyone interested in preparedness, survival, or just understanding human resilience. We live in an age of specialized gear for, honestly, every conceivable situation, yet the fundamental principle remains unchanged. The best survival tool is the human mind, capable of seeing potential in the most unlikely places. Modern preppers and survivalists can really learn from these World War II veterans that versatility trumps specialization, that understanding core principles matters a lot more than memorizing specific techniques, and that true preparedness means cultivating an adaptive mindset rather than simply accumulating equipment. The ingenuity born from those desperate wartime situations reminds us that humans are, perhaps at their most innovative when faced with genuine adversity. When the manual just doesn't have an answer and official channels have failed, human creativity steps in to fill the void. These soldiers weren't superhuman. They were ordinary people thrust into extraordinary circumstances who discovered capabilities they never knew they possessed. As we close this exploration into the forgotten survival innovations of World War II, consider, if you will, what these stories mean for us today. In an uncertain world, the ability to improvise, adapt, and overcome with whatever resources are available remains as valuable now as it was 80 years ago. These field expedients weren't just about surviving a war, they were about refusing to surrender to circumstance, about finding solutions where none seemed to exist. If these forgotten stories of battlefield ingenuity fascinated you, do subscribe to The Lost Tactician to continue uncovering the hidden knowledge and untold tactics that shaped history. Share this video with anyone interested in survival, military history, or human ingenuity under pressure. And in the comments, tell us, what improvised survival solution from any era do you find most impressive? What forgotten knowledge, in your view, deserves to be remembered? Until next time, stay tactical, stay curious, and never underestimate the power of human adaptability when survival demands it.